Hi there, and a very warm welcome to Season 3, Episode 41 of PeopleSoup. It's Ross McIntosh here. P-Soupers, thanks for tuning in. This week it's a bonus episode with physiotherapist, coach and author Anne Parkinson, who shares an awareness and breathing exercise. PeopleSoup is an award-winning podcast where we share evidence-based behavioural science in a way that's practical, accessible and fun to nourish your mind to flourish at work. And we're going to dive straight in with this bonus cup of soup. In my chat with Anne, we'd just been talking about how the work context had changed again for many of us, or it was feeling like an ever-changing scenario. A bit like Tales of the Unexpected. I'm interested in support we can provide to our P-Soupers for that change of context and maybe anything they could do when things perhaps are getting on top of them. You're getting tangled up in work or unhelpful thoughts or perhaps anxiety. Anything that you'd recommend?
I think one of the simplest and easiest things that we can do that requires no special equipment, it's not necessarily to be in a certain place, is to work with our breathing. And the first thing that I would always encourage people to do is work with awareness first, because we can't effectively modulate what we don't understand. Our breathing is a gateway to help us understand what's going on with our whole person. So the mind, body, spirit as well. Spirit not necessarily being religion, although it could be, is what's connection to what's meaningful and purposeful. So if things are a little bit out of balance in any of that, say we've got time pressures and we maybe don't necessarily notice what's going on at a thought level. We're on automatic pilot and we're really focused on what we're doing, but we're actually really struggling for that time. The body will be showing that through maybe tension in certain body areas, through the way the breathing is. Maybe the tummy is tight and not relaxed. Maybe the breathing's all in the upper chest. So actually by having the awareness to notice the breathing helps us notice that we need to calm those systems down. And that gives us a pause, a time for a pause to notice, to build awareness and calm the systems down once we've done that. And then that helps us see what maybe is most helpful at that time.
Great. Anne, would you be willing to take us through an exercise, please, for the P-Soupers out there? I think it could be something enormously useful to us all.
Of course, yes. And one thing I will say is that if anybody is experiencing high levels of anxiety or focusing on the breath is not okay, then you can bring in some movement. With an inhale, you can either move your hands apart and there's an exhale, bring them back, or an inhale, lift your arms up, and exhale, bring them down. If there's still a lot of anxiety or some overwhelm, then please stop. Notice what you can see around you, change rooms, really just calm things down in whatever way is okay for you. So you don't need to continue. Hopefully it will be okay for everybody. We just want to kind of put that in there, and a little bit of noticing, oh, my breathing's a bit funny, or I feel a bit anxious. That's okay, as long as if it's not up at a high level. Okay, so we'll do this for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. We'll see what happens. So I'd like to invite the listeners to come into a comfortable seated position. So it's both feet on the floor and a nice upright spine. So maybe you've got a cushion behind you, as I have. So it's a length in the spine that's gentle up to the crown of the head. And imagine that the collarbones are gently smiling. So you've got a nice openness across the upper chest. And then if it's okay for you, you can close your eyes, or if not, lower your gaze. And notice your feet on the floor, your bottom on the chair, back on the chair back, and know that you're sitting. Notice that gentle length in the spine and soften any extra tension that you don't need. Soften the muscles around the face and the jaw. And then notice your breathing at whatever point you choose, Maybe that's the nose, maybe that's the tummy, maybe that's somewhere else. And without changing, see if you can simply notice the breath in and the breath out. So you can maybe notice the length of the breath in and the length of the breath out. Is it smooth or is it a bit jerky? What sort of qualities does your breath have? And where do you feel the breath? Maybe you're focusing where you already feel it most. Or maybe there's another place where you feel it more. And if so, you can change places. And if you get distracted by a thought or a sound, come gently back to what you were doing and just focusing that flow of the inhale and the exhale. Maybe you'll notice there's a pause at the top of the inhale. And maybe you'll notice there's a pause at the end of the exhale. Simply explore and notice what your breath feels like. And as you notice in the feelings, start to count your breath in and count your breath out. So without changing, which is not necessarily an easy bit as you're counting, notice the length of each breath. And before we do anything with that count, see if you can allow your breath to be a little bit softer as you breathe in and a little bit softer as you breathe out, still keeping that count. Now see if you can make that breath a little bit smoother. So a softer, smoother breath in and a softer, smoother breath out. And the final thing we're going to do with the breathe in is to see if we can extend that breath as we breathe out a little bit more. So 1 or 2 counts longer as you exhale, keeping that softness and that smoothness. So a little bit longer as you breathe out. If it creates tension, then make it a little bit shorter. So if you've gone up by 2 counts, go down by adding 1 count. So a soft, smooth breath. Noticing how that feels now. And I'm going to allow you to breathe to your own rhythm in this way for 30 seconds or so. And then start to let your breathing return to its own unconscious rhythm. So letting that practice go, keeping your eyes closed for a moment, noticing your feet on the floor, knowing that you're sitting. Maybe wiggling your fingers, your toes, and stretching your arms overhead, and opening your eyes when you're ready. Just notice what you can see and hear around you. So you're back to being fully present.
Wow. Anne, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. And what I would normally do, and I didn't do at the start of that, is get you to notice how you are in body and mind first, and notice how you are at the end.
Okay. Well, I guess the beauty of recording this is people can go back and listen and build that in.
Yeah, and you can make that a shorter practice. So if you're at work and you've got a minute while the kettle boils, you check in how you are. Maybe you can't do that. Maybe you're quite stressed and anxious. So maybe you notice where your breathing is. You just notice it for 30 seconds. And then you breathe for a minute or 30 seconds in a more relaxed, calm way. So we are stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. We're down-regulating that sympathetic nervous system a little bit. They're both active all of the time, but the way things are right now, there's a lot of sympathetic nervous system activation, that fight, flight, freeze. So it gives us an opportunity to down-regulate that through modulating our breathing.
Lovely, lovely exercise, Anne. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.